My name is Hattie Thompson, and I'm 72 years old. I raised 4 children by myself after my husband died, worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over their heads, and loved them with everything I had. And 3 of them repaid me by trying to steal my house and put me in a nursing home. But today they learned a lesson they'll never forget. Let me tell you about the moment everything changed. About the day my 3 oldest children, Gideon, Alma, and Booker, brought a real estate agent to MY house to sell it without my permission. About how they stood in MY living room with papers and pens, ready to sign away MY home. And about the moment I told them the truth that made all 3 of them literally collapse to the floor. It was a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was in the kitchen making sweet tea when I heard the doorbell ring. I opened it to find Gideon, Alma, and Booker standing there with a white woman in a business suit carrying a briefcase. "Mama," Gideon said, not even bothering to hug me, "this is Mrs. Patterson. She's a real estate agent. We need to talk about the house." "What about the house?" I asked, even though I already knew. I'd known for weeks what they were planning. "We're selling it," Alma said bluntly. "You can't take care of this place anymore. You're too old. It's too much for you. We found a nice assisted living facility." "I'm not selling my house," I said firmly, "and I'm certainly not going to any facility." "Mama, you don't have a choice," Booker said, pushing past me into the house. The others followed, Mrs. Patterson looking uncomfortable. If this story has you hooked already, subscribe right now and hit that notification bell. We share the most powerful grandmother stories every week. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from: USA, UK, Canada, Jamaica, Kenya. We want to know. Now let's get into this story. They all sat down in my living room like they owned the place. Mrs. Patterson opened her briefcase and pulled out papers. "Mrs. Thompson," she said gently, "your children have explained that you're getting older and the house is becoming too much to maintain. They've asked me to help facilitate a sale. With the market the way it is, we could get $450,000 for this property." "I'm not selling," I repeated. "Mama, stop being difficult," Alma snapped. "We've already made the decision. The house will be sold, the money will be split 4 ways between us kids, and you'll move into Sunnybrook Estates. It's a lovely place. They have bingo on Thursdays." "I don't want to play bingo. I want to stay in my house." "This isn't your house anymore, Mama," Gideon said coldly. "Daddy's been dead for 20 years. You're living here alone. It's not safe. And frankly, we have a right to our inheritance. This house is worth almost $500,000 just sitting here doing nothing." "Your inheritance?" I stared at him. "Your father and I bought this house with our own money. We raised you here. I've lived here for 45 years. And you think you have a right to take it from me?" "You're being selfish," Booker said. "Think about what's fair. We're your children. When you die, we inherit anyway. Why make us wait? Sell now, move into the facility, and we all benefit." Mrs. Patterson looked more and more uncomfortable. "Perhaps we should give Mrs. Thompson some time to think." "No," Alma interrupted. "She's had time. We've been talking about this for months. Today, we're making a decision. Mama, either you agree to sell, or we'll have you declared incompetent and sell it anyway." That's when I'd had enough. I stood up, walked to my bedroom, and came back with a folder. A folder I'd been keeping for this exact moment. "You want to sell this house?" I asked calmly. "You think you have that right?" "We do," Gideon said confidently. "Then you better talk to the actual owner first." "What are you talking about? You're the owner." I opened the folder and pulled out a document, a deed, a property deed that showed the truth. "No, I'm not," I said, and I watched their faces as I held up the paper. "I haven't owned this house for 15 years. Your sister Effie does." The room went completely silent. "What?" Alma whispered. "This house belongs to Effie. It's in her name. Has been since 2008. I transferred the deed to her when she graduated from college. So if you want to sell it, you better ask her permission. But I don't think she's going to give it." I watched the color drain from all 3 of their faces, watched the realization hit them like a physical blow. And then Gideon, my oldest son, the one who just threatened to have me declared incompetent, literally collapsed. His knees buckled and he fell to the floor, gasping like he couldn't breathe. Alma grabbed the back of the couch to keep from falling. Her face had gone completely white. Booker just stood there with his mouth hanging open, staring at the deed in my hand like it was a poisonous snake. "No," Alma finally managed to say. "No, that's not possible. You're lying. That has to be fake." "It's not fake. Mrs. Patterson, you're a real estate professional. Would you like to examine the deed?" Mrs. Patterson took the paper with shaking hands. She studied it carefully, and then she looked at my 3 children with something like pity. "This is legitimate," she said quietly. "This property is owned by Effie Thompson. The deed was legally transferred and recorded with the county in June 2008. Mrs. Hattie Thompson is listed as having lifetime tenancy, meaning she can live here until she dies, but the property belongs to Miss Effie Thompson." But why?" Booker stammered. "Why would you do that?" "Because I knew this day would come," I said coldly. "I knew that the 3 of you would try to take my house. You've been waiting like vultures for me to die so you can split up what your father and I built. So I made sure you couldn't. I gave it to the one child who actually loves me. The one child who visits me regularly, who calls me just to talk, who never asks me for money. Effie earned this house. You 3 earned nothing." Gideon was still on the floor, making sounds like he was choking. Alma had tears streaming down her face. Booker just looked stunned. "Get out," I said. "All 3 of you, get out of my house, Effie's house, and don't come back unless you're ready to apologize and act like real family." They left. Mrs. Patterson fled first, mumbling apologies. Then my 3 children stumbled out, looking like their whole world had just ended. Because it had. They'd spent months planning to steal from me, planning to put me away, planning to cash in on my home. And they just learned they had no power, no claim, no right to anything. But this wasn't the first time they'd tried to take from me. This wasn't the beginning of their greed. To understand how we got here, to understand why I transferred my house to Effie and kept it secret for 15 years, you need to hear the whole story. You need to know who my children became and what I had to do to protect myself from them. It started 20 years ago when my husband Moses died. Moses Thompson was a good man, a hardworking man. He'd worked as a mechanic for 40 years and I'd worked as a nurse's aide. Together, we bought our house in 1978, a modest 3-bedroom home in a nice neighborhood. We raised 4 children there, Gideon, Alma, Booker, and Effie. When Moses died in 2003, I was 52 years old. The kids were grown. Gideon was 30, Alma was 28, Booker was 25, and Effie was just 20, still in college. Moses had a small life insurance policy, $50,000, and he'd left everything to me. The house, his pension, his savings, everything. I thought my children would support me through my grief, help me figure out how to move forward without their father. Instead, they came to me asking for money. Gideon came first, just 3 days after the funeral. "Mama, I know this is hard, but I need to talk to you about something important. My business is struggling. I need about $20,000 to keep it afloat. Can you help me out?" Gideon owned a small auto repair shop, following in his father's footsteps. But he wasn't good at managing money. He spent too much, charged too little, and was always in debt. "Baby, I just lost your father. Can this wait?" "Mama, if I don't get this money in the next week, I'm going to lose the shop. Please. It's what Daddy would have wanted, keeping the family business going." Moses hadn't wanted Gideon to open that shop in the first place. He'd told Gideon he wasn't ready, that he needed more experience. But Gideon hadn't listened. Still, I was grieving. I wasn't thinking clearly, so I gave him $20,000. A week later, Alma came. "Mama, I heard you helped Gideon. I need help too. My husband lost his job, and we're behind on our mortgage. Can you give us $15,000 to catch up?" Alma had married young to a man named Cleveland who couldn't keep a job. They'd been struggling financially since day one. Moses had never liked Cleveland, said he was lazy. But Alma was my daughter, my baby girl, so I gave her $15,000. Then Booker came. Mama, I don't want to be the only one left out. Gideon got money, Alma got money. What about me? I'm thinking about going back to school. I need $10,000 for tuition. Booker had dropped out of college twice already. He'd never finished anything he started. But I wanted to be fair to all my children. So I gave him $10,000. Just like that, almost the entire life insurance policy was gone. I'd given away $45,000 in less than 2 weeks. Effie was the only one who didn't ask for anything. In fact, when she found out what happened, she called me, crying. Mama, why did you give them all that money? You need that. What about your future? What about your bills? Baby, they're family. They needed help. They're vultures. Mama, Gideon's business failed 6 months later. He gambled that money away. Alma and Cleveland bought a new car with their money. They never caught up on the mortgage. And Booker never went back to school. They used you. She was right, but I didn't want to admit it. Didn't want to believe my own children would steal from me. But over the next few years, it got worse. Gideon's shop did fail. He declared bankruptcy. Then he started asking me for small loans. Just $500, Mama, I'll pay you back. He never did. Alma and Cleveland lost their house anyway. They moved in with me for a few months that turned into 2 years. They didn't pay rent. They ate my food. Cleveland sat on my couch watching TV all day while Alma complained that I didn't keep the house clean enough. Booker bounced from job to job, always calling me when he was short on rent. Mama, can you spare $300? I'm a little short this month. Every single month. Only Effie was different. She finished college, got a good job as a teacher, bought her own small apartment. She visited me every Sunday. She called me every Wednesday just to chat. She brought me groceries when money was tight. She never asked me for anything. And slowly, I started to see the truth. 3 of my children loved my money more than they loved me. In 2008, something happened that opened my eyes completely. I had a health scare, a small stroke, nothing major but scary enough. I was in the hospital for 3 days. Effie took time off work to be with me, sat by my bed, held my hand, cried and prayed. Gideon, Alma, and Booker, they came once, spent 10 minutes, and then I overheard them in the hallway having a conversation I'll never forget. If Mama dies, what happens to the house? Gideon asked. It gets split 4 ways, Alma answered. That's the law. It would be worth about $300,000. That's $75,000 each. Not bad, Booker said. I could really use that money. We all could, Gideon agreed. Mama's getting older anyway. It's only a matter of time. They were talking about my death like it was a business opportunity. Like they were waiting for me to die so they could cash in. I didn't say anything. I just lay there in that hospital bed, listening to my children calculate my worth. When I got out of the hospital, I made an appointment with a lawyer, a good lawyer, and I asked her a simple question. How do I make sure my children can't take my house after I die? You can transfer ownership now, she explained. Put it in someone else's name, someone you trust. You can keep lifetime tenancy, meaning you get to live there until you die, but the house belongs to them. That way, when you pass, your other children have no claim to it. Can I do that without them knowing? Absolutely. Property transfers are recorded, but unless they're checking county records regularly, they won't find out. Then I want to transfer it to my youngest daughter, Effie. I told Effie what I was doing. At first, she refused. Mama, I don't want your house. That's your home. You should keep it. Baby, this house will be yours someday anyway. I'm just making sure your siblings can't take it from you. They'll try, Effie. When I'm gone, they'll try to sell this house and split the money. But this house is your inheritance. You've earned it by being a real daughter to me. Let me do this. Finally, she agreed. We transferred the deed in June 2008. The house became Effie's property. I kept the right to live there for the rest of my life, and we didn't tell anyone. For 15 years, I kept that secret. And for 15 years, I watched my other 3 children get greedier and greedier. They started talking openly about when Mama dies and Mama's inheritance. They'd argue about who would get what. They'd calculate the value of my house, my small savings, my furniture. They talked about me like I was already dead, like I was just an obstacle between them and money. And finally, 6 months ago, they stopped waiting. They started trying to force me out while I was still alive. It started with Gideon suggesting I move in with him. "Mama, you're getting older. You shouldn't live alone. Come stay with me and my family." But I knew what he really wanted, to get me out of the house so he could sell it. When I refused, Alma tried next. "Mama, I saw a lovely assisted living place. Let me take you to tour it." When I refused that, Booker started dropping hints about how dangerous it was for an elderly woman to live alone. "What if you fall and can't get up? What if someone breaks in? You should really think about moving somewhere safer." They were working together, planning, strategizing how to get me out of MY house so they could sell it and split the money. And that's when I knew it was time to reveal the truth. Time to let them know that all their planning, all their scheming, all their greed, it had been for nothing. Because the house was never theirs to take. But I wanted to wait for the perfect moment. The moment when they were so confident, so sure of themselves, that the truth would hit them the hardest. And that moment came today, when they brought a real estate agent to MY door, when they tried to sell MY house without my permission, when they threatened to have me declared incompetent. That's when I pulled out the deed and watched their world crumble. But the story doesn't end there, because after they left, after they realized what I'd done, they didn't just give up. They got angry, dangerous, desperate. And what they did next almost destroyed everything. Oh my God, what are they going to do? If you're hooked, smash that like button and subscribe immediately. Turn on notifications and comment, where are you watching from? And would you have done what Hattie did? This story is about to get intense. Don't miss what happens next. Fire. After Gideon, Alma, and Booker left my house that day, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd realize what they'd become. That they'd feel ashamed. That they'd apologize and try to make things right. I was wrong. 2 hours after they left, my phone started ringing. Gideon, I didn't answer. Then Alma, I didn't answer. Then Booker, I let it ring. Finally, a text message came through from Gideon. "You can't do this to us. That house is our inheritance. We'll fight you on this." Then Alma, "How could you betray your own children? Give everything to Effie like we don't matter. You're a terrible mother." Then Booker, "This isn't over. You've made a big mistake." I turned my phone off. I didn't want to hear it. I'd done what I had to do to protect myself. If they couldn't understand that, it wasn't my problem. But the next morning, things got worse. Effie called me at 7 a.m. crying. "Mama, they've been calling me all night. Gideon, Alma, and Booker, they're furious. They're saying horrible things. They're demanding I sign the house back over to you so they can sell it. They're threatening me, Mama." "What kind of threats?" "Gideon said if I don't give them what they want, I'll never be part of this family again. Alma said I stole their inheritance and she'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person I am. And Booker said he'd make my life miserable until I gave in." My heart sank. I'd protected Effie by giving her the house, but now I'd made her a target. "Baby, don't listen to them. They're just angry because their plan didn't work. They'll calm down." "Mama, I don't think they will. They're really mad, like scary mad." She was right to be scared, because over the next few weeks, my 3 oldest children launched a full campaign to take that house, or at least make our lives miserable for keeping it from them. First, they tried to turn the family against us. They called every relative we had, cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends, and told them their version of the story. That I was a senile old woman who'd given everything to Effie because she'd manipulated me. That Effie had poisoned me against them. That they were the victims of a cruel scheme. My sister Lula called me, concerned. "Hattie, is it true? Did you really give your house to Effie and leave the other kids with nothing?" "The house is Effie's because she's the only one who treats me like a mother instead of a bank account. Gideon, Alma, and Booker have been trying to push me into a nursing home so they can sell my house and split the money." "Is that really true? Your own children would do that?" Yes, Lula. They brought a real estate agent to my house without my permission. They tried to force me to sell. Oh, Hattie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they'd become like that. But not everyone believed me. Some relatives sided with Gideon, Alma, and Booker, said I was being unfair, said parents should treat all their children equally. Equal treatment for equal behavior, I told them. Effie earned that house by being a good daughter. The others earned nothing but my disappointment. Then Gideon tried something even more devious. He went to the county clerk's office and tried to claim the deed transfer was fraudulent, said I'd been coerced, that Effie had forced me to sign papers when I wasn't in my right mind. The county clerk called me to verify. Mrs. Thompson, we have a complaint about the 2008 deed transfer. Your son claims you were mentally incompetent when you signed it. I was 57 years old and perfectly healthy. I knew exactly what I was doing. My son is lying because he's angry he can't steal my house. Do you have documentation? Medical records from that time showing you were competent? I can get them. How soon do you need them? Within 30 days, or we'll have to open an investigation. I spent the next week gathering medical records, bank statements, anything that proved I'd been of sound mind in 2008. My doctor wrote a letter confirming I'd had no cognitive issues. My lawyer provided documentation showing I'd consulted with her multiple times and clearly understood what I was doing. I submitted everything to the county clerk. The complaint was dismissed. But Gideon didn't stop there. He hired a lawyer. Not a good lawyer, he couldn't afford one, but a cheap lawyer who was willing to send threatening letters. I got a letter 2 weeks after the county complaint was dismissed. It claimed that the deed transfer violated some obscure property law, that I'd defrauded my children out of their rightful inheritance, that they were prepared to take legal action. I showed the letter to Effie. She was terrified. Mama, what if they sue us? What if they take the house? Baby, they can't. The deed is legal. The transfer was done properly. This is just intimidation. They're trying to scare us into giving in. But Effie was scared, and I was getting tired of the constant attacks, tired of the phone calls, the messages, the family drama, tired of my own children treating me like an enemy. I called a family meeting, asked Gideon, Alma, and Booker to come to my house, to sit down and talk like adults. They came, but they weren't interested in talking. They wanted to fight. Mama, this is your last chance, Gideon said the moment he walked in. Sign the house back over to your name or put it in all 4 of our names equally. That's fair. That's right. Fair would have been treating me like a mother instead of an ATM machine for the past 20 years. I shot back. We did treat you like a mother, Alma protested. We visited, we called. You visited when you needed money. You called when you wanted something. The only time any of you showed me real love was when you wanted to take from me. That's not true, Booker said, but his voice was weak because he knew it was true. When was the last time any of you came to see me just because you wanted to? Just to spend time with me? When was the last time you asked how I was doing without following it up with a request for money? They couldn't answer because they couldn't remember. Effie comes every Sunday, I continued. She brings me groceries. She fixes things around the house. She calls me just to chat. She remembers my birthday. She takes me to doctor's appointments. She treats me like I'm her mother, not her inheritance. That's why she got the house. Not because I love her more, but because she loved me more. So we're being punished for not being perfect, Gideon demanded. You're facing the consequences of treating me like garbage. There's a difference. The meeting ended badly. They left angrier than when they came. But the attacks didn't stop. They escalated. Alma started a rumor in the neighborhood that Effie was abusing me, that she'd stolen my house and was keeping me prisoner, that I needed help. Neighbors I'd known for decades started looking at me with pity. Some even asked if I was okay, if I needed them to call someone. I'm fine, I kept saying. My daughter Alma is spreading lies because she's mad she didn't get my house. But the rumors damaged Effie's reputation. She was a teacher at the local elementary school, and some parents heard the rumors and complained to the principal. Said they didn't want someone who abuses elderly relatives teaching their children. Effie almost lost her job. She had to bring documentation proving the rumors were false. Had to explain to her principal that her own siblings were spreading lies about her. "Mama, I can't take this anymore," she cried to me one night. "Maybe I should just give them the house. Let them have it. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to keep fighting." "Baby, if you give them that house, they win. They'll learn that bullying and lying works. Is that what you want?" "No, but Mama, this is destroying my life." She was right. My decision to protect myself had put a target on Effie's back, and I started to wonder if I'd made a mistake. Then something happened that changed everything. I got a call from a woman named Minnie Davis. She said she was a social worker with Adult Protective Services. "Mrs. Thompson, we received a report that you're being financially exploited by your daughter Effie, that she forced you to sign over your house. I need to come investigate." "Who reported that?" "I can't disclose that information, but I'll be at your home tomorrow at 2 p.m. to conduct a home visit and interview you." I knew immediately who'd called: Gideon, Alma, or Booker, maybe all three. They'd reported me to the government, claimed I was being abused, tried to use the system to take my house. When Minnie Davis arrived the next day, she was professional but thorough. She walked through my house, checking for signs of neglect or abuse. She asked me dozens of questions about my health, my finances, my relationship with Effie. "Mrs. Thompson, do you feel safe in this home?" "Yes, I'm perfectly safe." "Has anyone pressured you to sign over property or assets?" "My daughter Effie has never pressured me for anything, but my other 3 children have been trying to force me to sell my house for months so they can split the money." "So the house is in your daughter Effie's name?" "Yes, I transferred it to her 15 years ago because I knew my other children would try to take it when I died. I was right. They've been trying to take it while I'm still alive." I showed her all my documentation: the deed, the lawyer's letters, the medical records, the timeline of events. Minnie Davis took notes on everything, and finally she said, "Mrs. Thompson, I see no evidence of abuse or exploitation. In fact, it appears you're being harassed by your other adult children. I'm going to close this case as unfounded. But I want you to know, if they continue to harass you, you can file a restraining order." After she left, I felt both relieved and devastated. Relieved that the investigation found nothing wrong. Devastated that my own children had tried to use the government against me. That night, I called Gideon, Alma, and Booker, all 3 of them on a conference call. "I know what you did," I said. "I know you called Adult Protective Services and tried to have Effie investigated." Silence. Then Gideon, "We were concerned about you, Mama. You were trying to take my house, and it didn't work. The investigation found nothing, because there's nothing to find. Effie has never done anything wrong. You have." "Mama, why are you doing this?" Alma's voice was tearful. "Why are you destroying our family?" "I'm not destroying our family. I'm protecting myself from people who see me as a paycheck. And I'm done. I'm done with the calls, the threats, the lies, the investigations. If you 3 don't stop this harassment, I'll file restraining orders against all of you." "You'd do that?" Booker sounded shocked. "You'd get restraining orders against your own children?" "To protect myself and Effie, yes, I absolutely would." I hung up, and for a few weeks it was quiet. They stopped calling, stopped texting, stopped showing up at my house. I thought maybe, finally, they'd given up. But I should have known better. Because Gideon, Alma, and Booker weren't done. They were just regrouping, planning something bigger. Something that would force me to make a choice I never wanted to make. It was a Saturday morning when Effie called me, hysterical. Mama, they broke into my apartment." "What, who?" "Gideon, Alma, and Booker. They broke into my apartment while I was at work. They went through all my things. They took documents, the house deed, my bank statements, everything." "Did you call the police?" "Yes, they're here now taking a report. But Mama, why would they do this? What are they looking for?" I knew exactly what they were looking for. Evidence. Anything they could use to claim the deed transfer was fraudulent, or anything they could use to blackmail Effie into giving up the house. "Baby, I'm coming over right now." When I got to Effie's apartment, the police were still there. The place had been ransacked, drawers emptied, papers scattered everywhere, files torn open. "Ma'am," one officer said to me, "your daughter says her siblings did this." "Yes, they've been harassing us for months because they want to steal my house. My daughter Effie legally owns my house, and they're desperate to take it from her. This is burglary, if she wants to press charges." "I want to press charges," Effie said firmly. "I'm done being nice. They broke into my home, they stole my property, I want them arrested." The police took our statements and opened an investigation. Within 2 days, they'd arrested all 3 of them, Gideon, Alma, and Booker, for breaking and entering and theft. They were released on bail the same day, but now they had criminal charges pending. And that's when my phone rang. It was Gideon. "Are you happy now, Mama? You got us arrested, your own children. You got yourselves arrested by committing a crime. We were just trying to find proof that Effie manipulated you. You broke into her apartment, you stole her property. What did you think would happen? I think you've turned into a hateful old woman who cares more about money than family." "No, Gideon, I turned into a woman who won't let her children abuse her anymore. There's a difference." He hung up, and I thought, this is it. This is finally over. They'll go to court for the burglary, they'll get convicted or take a plea deal, and maybe, finally, they'll leave us alone. But 2 days later, I got a call that made my blood run cold. It was from Effie's principal. "Mrs. Thompson, I need to inform you that we've received some disturbing information about your daughter. Documents were sent anonymously to our office showing questionable financial transactions. We're required to investigate. Effie has been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation." "What documents? What transactions?" "I can't discuss the details, but Mrs. Thompson, if these allegations are true, your daughter could lose her teaching license." After I hung up, I knew immediately what had happened. The documents they stole from Effie's apartment, they'd altered them somehow, made it look like Effie had done something illegal, and sent them to her employer to destroy her career. My children weren't just trying to take the house anymore. They were trying to destroy Effie completely. No way, they're trying to destroy Effie's career. If you're OUTRAGED right now, smash that like button and subscribe. Turn on all notifications, bell, and comment. Where are you watching from? And what would you do if your siblings did this? This is about to get explosive. Effie came to my house that night looking like she'd aged 10 years in one day. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hands were shaking. "Mama, I don't understand. They showed me copies of the documents. They made it look like I've been stealing money from you, like I forged checks, like I've been taking thousands of dollars from your accounts for years." "But you haven't." "I know I haven't, but Mama, these documents, they look real. Someone altered my bank statements to make it look like I was depositing money from your accounts. They changed dates on checks. They created fake records. It looked so real that even I almost believed it for a second." I felt rage building inside me. My children, my own flesh and blood, had created fake evidence to destroy their sister's life. "We'll fight this, baby. We'll prove those documents are fake." "How, Mama? They've already suspended me. The school board is investigating. If they believe this, I'll lose my teaching license. Everything I've worked for gone. All because Gideon, Alma, and Booker want your house." She broke down sobbing, and I held my youngest daughter, my good daughter, my faithful daughter, and I made a decision. This ended now, whatever it took. The next morning, I called a meeting. Not with my 3 oldest children, I was done talking to them. I called a meeting with their spouses. Gideon's wife was named Cora, Alma's husband was Cleveland, and Booker's wife was named Dovie. I invited all 3 of them to my house, told them it was urgent. They came, looking confused. "Thank you for coming," I said once they were all seated in my living room. "I need to talk to you about what your spouses have been doing." "Mrs. Thompson, we know about the house situation," Cora said carefully. Gideon told us his side. His side is lies. Let me tell you the truth. For the next hour, I laid out everything. Not just the house deed, but the 20 years of my children bleeding me dry. The life insurance money they took right after Moses died. The constant loans that were never repaid. The way they talked about my death like a business opportunity. The real estate agent they brought to force me to sell. The break-in at Effie's apartment. The forged documents they'd sent to destroy Effie's career. I showed them proof of everything. Bank records showing the money I'd given them. Police reports from the break-in. Copies of the forged documents alongside the real ones. By the time I finished, all three of them looked sick. Cleveland spoke first. Mrs. Thompson, I didn't know it was this bad. Alma told me you were being unfair, that you'd given everything to Effie for no reason. She never told me about the money you'd given us over the years. She never told me she was planning to put you in a nursing home. Did she tell you she broke into Effie's apartment? She said they were just looking for evidence that Effie was manipulating you. She made it sound innocent. Breaking and entering isn't innocent, and forging documents to destroy someone's career isn't innocent either. Cora was crying. Mrs. Thompson, I'm so sorry. Gideon's been so angry about this house situation. I tried to tell him to let it go, but he wouldn't listen. He kept saying you were being unfair, that Effie had poisoned you against him. I didn't know he'd gone this far. Dovie just sat there shaking her head. Booker told me you were getting senile, that Effie was taking advantage of you. He said they needed to intervene to protect you. It was all lies, wasn't it? Every word, I confirmed. What do you want from us? Cora asked. I want you to talk to your spouses. Make them understand they need to stop this madness. Because if they don't, I'm going to do something I never wanted to do. I'm going to cut them out of my life completely. No more family. No more second chances. They'll be dead to me. All three of them promised to talk to their spouses, to try to make them see reason. But I wasn't hopeful, because people consumed by greed rarely listen to reason. That night, something happened that proved me right. I was sleeping when I heard breaking glass. I woke up confused, my heart pounding. Then I smelled smoke. Someone had thrown something through my living room window, and it was on fire. I grabbed my phone and called 911, then stumbled out of my bedroom. The living room curtains were ablaze. Flames were spreading to the couch. The smoke was thick and black. I couldn't get to the front door. The fire was blocking it. I ran to the back door, unlocked it, and stumbled outside into my backyard, coughing and choking. My neighbors saw the smoke and came running. Someone had a fire extinguisher and started spraying the flames. Within minutes, I heard sirens. The fire department arrived and put out the fire before it could destroy the whole house. But my living room was ruined. The couch, the curtains, the carpet, all destroyed. The walls were black with smoke damage. A fire investigator examined the scene. Mrs. Thompson, this was arson. Someone threw a Molotov cocktail, a bottle filled with gasoline and a rag, through your window. Do you have any idea who might have done this? I knew exactly who did it, or at least who was behind it. My 3 oldest children have been trying to force me out of this house so they can sell it. They've been harassing me for months. They broke into my daughter's apartment. They've forged documents. And now they've tried to burn down my house. That's very serious. We'll need to investigate. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? Effie arrived within 20 minutes of getting my call. She took one look at the damage and burst into tears. Mama, thank God you're okay. What if you hadn't woken up? What if the smoke had gotten you first? Baby, I'm fine, just shaken. You can't stay here. Not tonight. Not until they catch whoever did this. You're staying with me. I packed a bag and went home with Effie. And that night, lying in her guest room, I realized something. My children, 3 of them, had become monsters. They'd crossed a line I never thought they'd cross. They'd tried to kill me. Maybe they didn't intend to kill me. Maybe they just wanted to scare me or destroy the house so it would be worthless. But fire doesn't care about intentions. Fire kills. And my own children had set that fire. The police investigated. They found security camera footage from a neighbor's house showing a car pulling up to my house at 2 a.m. A figure got out, threw something through my window, and drove away. The car was registered to Booker. They arrested him the next morning. He claimed his car had been stolen. That someone must have taken it and returned it without him knowing. But the police didn't believe him. "Mr. Thompson," the detective told him, "your car was parked in your driveway all night. Your wife confirms you were home. But the security footage shows someone who matches your height and build throwing that firebomb. Unless you can provide an alibi, you're being charged with arson and attempted murder." Booker finally broke. It was Gideon's idea. He said we needed to destroy the house so nobody could have it. He said if we couldn't sell it and get the money, then Effie shouldn't have it either. He gave me the bottle and told me to throw it through the window at night when Mama would be asleep. "So you knew your mother was in the house?" Gideon said she'd wake up and get out. He said it would just scare her enough to make her leave and let us sell the property. I didn't mean to hurt her. "You threw a firebomb into an occupied house in the middle of the night. That's attempted murder, whether you meant it or not." They arrested Gideon as an accomplice. Alma wasn't directly involved in the fire, but she was charged as an accessory because she'd known about the plan and hadn't stopped it. All 3 of my oldest children were in jail, facing serious criminal charges. And I felt nothing, not sadness, not guilt, just emptiness. Because they'd forced me to accept the truth, I'd lost 3 of my 4 children, not to death, but to something worse, to greed, to hatred, to darkness. The next few weeks were a nightmare. The story made the local news. 3 siblings arrested for arson after trying to steal mother's house. Everyone in town knew what happened. Everyone had an opinion. Some people sympathized with me, said I'd done the right thing protecting myself. Others said I must have done something wrong as a mother to raise such terrible children, that it was somehow my fault. The house repairs were expensive. Insurance covered most of it, but the emotional damage was worse than the physical damage. I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. I kept seeing the flames, smelling the smoke. Effie begged me to stay with her permanently. "Mama, you're not safe in that house, not even after it's repaired. What if they make bail? What if they try again?" "Baby, I can't let them win. That house is my home. I've lived there for 45 years. I'm not letting them drive me out." But Effie's situation was getting worse too. The school board investigation was ongoing. Even though we'd proven the documents were forged, the scandal had damaged her reputation. Parents were pulling their kids from her class. Other teachers were treating her differently. "Mama, I think I need to resign," she said one night, crying. "Even if they clear me, I'll never live this down. Everyone will always wonder if there was some truth to it." "Don't you dare give up your career because of them. You're an excellent teacher. You've done nothing wrong." "But Mama, it doesn't matter what I've done. It matters what people believe. And people believe there's no smoke without fire." The irony of that phrase, given what had just happened, wasn't lost on either of us. 4 weeks after the fire, I got a visitor I wasn't expecting. Cora, Gideon's wife, came to Effie's apartment where I was staying. "Mrs. Thompson, can I talk to you? Please, just 5 minutes." I let her in, though I wasn't happy about it. "I wanted you to know," Cora said, her voice shaking. "I'm divorcing Gideon. I can't be married to someone who would try to hurt his own mother, who would commit arson, who would risk someone's life over money and a house." "I'm sorry, Cora." "Don't be. I should have left him years ago. I should have seen what he was becoming. But I was in denial. I kept making excuses for him, but there's no excuse for what he did. And Mrs. Thompson, I want you to know something else. Something I found out." "What?" "The reason Gideon is so desperate for money, he has a gambling problem, has had one for years. He's in debt to some very bad people. He owes over $200,000. That's why he needed your house money so desperately. Not just greed, desperation. Those people he owes money to have been threatening him, threatening our family." My stomach dropped. Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he ask for help? "Because he knew you'd say no. You'd already bailaid him out so many times before. And he was right. You would have said no. so he decided to take what he thought was his, by any means necessary. After Cora left, I sat there thinking. Gideon was in debt to dangerous people. That explained the desperation, the escalation, the willingness to commit arson. But it didn't excuse it, and it didn't change what I had to do. The preliminary hearing for Gideon, Alma, and Booker was scheduled for 2 months after their arrest. They were all out on bail, though Gideon's bail had been posted by Cora before she filed for divorce, ironically. The day before the hearing, all 3 of them showed up at Effie's apartment, together, unannounced. Effie called the police immediately, but before they arrived, my 3 oldest children stood outside her apartment door, calling through it. "Mama, please," that was Alma. "Mama, we need to talk to you, please." "We're sorry," Booker shouted. "We're so sorry, we went too far, we know that now." "Mama, please don't testify against us tomorrow," Gideon begged. "Please, if you testify, we'll go to prison. Is that what you want? Your own children in prison?" I opened the door, just a crack, just enough to see their faces. They looked terrible. Gideon had lost weight, dark circles under his eyes. Alma looked like she'd been crying for weeks. Booker's hands were shaking. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. "We want you to drop the charges," Gideon said. "Tell the prosecutor you don't want to press charges, that it was all a misunderstanding. Please, Mama." "A misunderstanding? You tried to burn down my house with me inside it." "I didn't mean for you to get hurt. I swear. It was just supposed to scare you. You wanted to destroy the house so nobody could have it. That's not love. That's not family. That's evil." "Mama, please." Alma grabbed my hand through the crack in the door. "We'll change. We'll get help. We'll go to therapy. Just don't send us to prison." I looked at my 3 oldest children, at the desperation in their eyes, at the fear, at the consequences finally catching up to them. And I thought about what a mother is supposed to do: protect her children, forgive them, give them second chances. But I also thought about what those children had done. The years of using me, the attempt to steal my home, the harassment of Effie, the burglary, the forged documents, the arson. The fire that could have killed me. "No," I said simply. "What?" Gideon looked shocked. "No, I won't drop the charges. You need to face consequences for what you've done. Real consequences. Maybe prison will teach you what I couldn't, that other people aren't just sources of money for you to exploit." "You're really going to send your own children to prison?" Booker asked, his voice breaking. "You sent yourselves to prison the moment you threw that firebomb through my window." I closed the door, locked it, and I heard them outside, crying, begging, and pleading. When the police arrived, they escorted my 3 oldest children away. And I made a decision about what I was going to do the next day at that hearing, a decision that would change everything. A decision that would either save my family or destroy it forever. This is intense. If you're on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe now. Turn on all notification and comment, where are you watching from? And do you think Hattie should forgive them? The morning of the hearing, I woke up with a decision made, but it wasn't the decision anyone expected. I got dressed carefully, a nice burgundy dress and my best pearls. Effie drove me to the courthouse. We sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, waiting. Gideon, Alma, and Booker arrived with their lawyers. They looked at me, hope and fear mixed on their faces. They still thought I might change my mind, still thought I might save them. But before we could go into the courtroom, something happened that changed everything. My sister Lula arrived, and with her were 20 other family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, even some of my late husband's relatives. People I'd grown up with, people who'd known my children since they were Bobbies. "Hattie," Lula said, hugging me tight, "we're here to support you, all of us. We heard what really happened, and we want you to know we're on your side." My cousin Pearline spoke up. "Hattie, Gideon called me last week. Tried to tell me you were being cruel to them, but I did some digging, talked to neighbors, talked to people who knew what was really going on. And girl, I am so sorry. Sorry we didn't see what they were doing to you all these years." One by one, family members came up to me. apologized for believing Gideon, Alma, and Booker's lies, told me they supported me, told me they were ashamed of what my 3 oldest children had become. Gideon, Alma, and Booker stood there watching their family, the people they'd tried to turn against me, choose me instead. The prosecutor approached me before the hearing started. "Mrs. Thompson, I need to be honest with you. Given that this is a first offense for your children, and given their ages and family circumstances, they're likely to get plea deals. Probably probation, community service, restitution. Maybe some jail time, but not much. The system doesn't usually send middle-aged people to prison for first-time property crimes, even arson, when no one was seriously hurt." "I understand," I said. "But I also want you to know, if you testify today, if you tell your story, it will be on the record. It will follow them forever. They'll be convicted felons. They'll lose certain rights, job prospects. It will impact the rest of their lives. Are you prepared for that?" I looked at my 3 oldest children, at their desperate faces, and I thought about everything they'd put me through, everything they'd put Effie through. "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared." The hearing began. The prosecutor laid out the charges: breaking and entering, theft, forgery, arson, attempted murder. Then it was my turn to testify. I walked to the witness stand, placed my hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. And I did. I told the whole truth, not just about the fire, but about everything. 20 years of my children using me for money, the life insurance they took, the constant loans, the way they talked about my death like a business opportunity, the real estate agent they brought to force me out, the harassment of Effie, all of it. As I talked, I watched my 3 oldest children. Gideon stared at the table. Alma was crying. Booker looked like he wanted to disappear. When I finished, the judge looked at me with something like pity. "Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry you've been through this. No mother should have to face what you've faced." Then she looked at Gideon, Alma, and Booker. "You 3 should be ashamed. Your mother worked 3 jobs to raise you. Your father worked himself to death to provide for you. And this is how you repay them, by trying to steal from her, by setting her house on fire." The lawyers negotiated plea deals. Gideon, because he'd planned the arson, got 2 years in prison. Alma got 1 year. Booker, because he'd actually thrown the firebomb, got 18 months, plus 5 years probation each after release, plus restitution for the damage to the house, plus mandatory therapy. As the judge read the sentences, I felt relief, not happiness, not satisfaction, just relief that it was finally over. But it wasn't over, not yet. After the hearing, we all walked out of the courthouse. My 3 oldest children were taken away to begin their sentences, and I stood there with Effie and the family members who'd come to support me. "Mama," Effie said quietly, "what now?" "Now we go home, and we rebuild." But as we walked to the car, someone called out to me, "Mrs. Thompson, wait." It was a woman I didn't recognize. She was in her 40s, professional-looking, carrying a briefcase. "Mrs. Thompson, my name is Alma Jean Foster. I'm a reporter with the Atlanta Tribune. I've been following your case, and I'd like to do a story about what happened to you, about elder financial abuse, about what happens when adult children exploit their parents." "I don't want to be in the newspaper," I said. "I understand, but Mrs. Thompson, your story could help other elderly people, could warn them about the signs of financial exploitation, could give them courage to stand up to abusive adult children. Would you consider it?" I looked at Effie. She nodded. "Mama, maybe she's right. Maybe your story could help people." "Okay," I said. "I'll do the interview." The article came out 2 weeks later. Front page of the living section. "When children become predators, one mother's fight to protect her home and her life." The article told my whole story, and it went viral. Within days, it had been shared thousands of times on social media. Other elderly people started commenting, sharing their own stories of adult children who tried to steal from them, of financial abuse, of exploitation. I started getting calls from all over the country, people thanking me for speaking up, people asking for advice, people telling me I'd given them courage to stand up to their own abusive children. A lawyer in Chicago called me. "Mrs. Thompson, I specialize in elder law. Your story has inspired me to start a nonprofit helping elderly people protect themselves from financial exploitation by family members. Would you be willing to be on our advisory board?" I said yes. A church in Detroit invited me to speak about my experience, then a community center in Philadelphia, then a senior center in Los Angeles. At 72 years old, I became an advocate, a voice for elderly people who were being abused by their own children, a warning to families about what happens when greed destroys love. 6 months after the hearing, Effie got news from her school district. The investigation had concluded. All charges were dropped. The forged documents had been definitively proven false, and the school board issued a public apology. Furthermore, the letter said, we recognize that Ms. Effie Thompson was the victim of a malicious campaign by her siblings to destroy her career and reputation. We commend her for her integrity throughout this difficult situation. She will be reinstated immediately with full back pay. Effie cried when she read it. "Mama, it's over. It's really over." "Not quite, baby. One more thing we need to do." I called a family meeting. Not just Effie, all the family members who'd supported me. Lula, Perline, my cousins, my late husband's relatives. Everyone gathered at my house, which had been fully repaired and was beautiful again. "Thank you all for being here," I said. "You supported me when I needed it most. You chose truth over lies, family over greed. And I want you to know something. I'm rewriting my will." I pulled out a document. Everything I have left, my savings, my possessions, everything is going to Effie. Not because I'm punishing Gideon, Alma, and Booker, though they deserve punishment, but because Effie is the only one who treated me like a mother instead of an ATM machine. "But Hattie," Lula said, "they're still your children. When they get out of prison, don't you think?" "No, I don't. They made their choices. They lived with greed for 20 years. They tried to kill me. Those are not my children anymore. My child is Effie. She's the only one who loved me." "What about when they get out?" Perline asked. "What if they come to you? What if they apologize? What if they've changed?" "If they've truly changed, if they get therapy, if they do the work, if they become different people, then maybe, someday, we can have a relationship. But it will never be the same. I'll never trust them again. I'll never give them access to my finances. And they'll never, ever get my house." Everyone nodded. They understood. 1 year after the fire, I got a letter. From Gideon, written from prison. "Dear Mama, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to write it anyway. I've been in therapy here. Mandatory at first, but I kept going even after I didn't have to. And I'm starting to understand some things about myself. The therapist says I have something called entitlement mentality. That I grew up believing I deserved things without earning them. That I saw you and Daddy as sources of resources rather than as people. That I never learned to be grateful for what I had because I was too busy wanting more. She's right. I think about that life insurance money. The $20,000 you gave me right after Daddy died. You were grieving, and instead of supporting you, I took from you. And I never paid you back, never even tried. I think about all the times I called you for money. All the times I made you feel guilty for not giving me enough. All the times I treated you like you owed me something just for existing. And I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that it took almost killing you for me to see what I'd become. I'm ashamed that I destroyed our family. I'm ashamed that Effie, sweet Effie who never did anything wrong, almost lost her career because of me. Mama, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. And if I ever get out of here, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to become the kind of man Daddy would have been proud of. I love you, Mama. I know I have a terrible way of showing it, but I do love you. Your son, Gideon. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it and put it away. Did I believe it? I didn't know. Prison changes people, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. Maybe Gideon was genuinely changing. Maybe this was manipulation. Time would tell. But I did know one thing. Even if he changed, even if he became a better person, I would never give him power over me again. Never give him access to my finances. Never let him back into my life in the same way. Some bridges, once burned, can never be fully rebuilt. 2 years after the fire, something wonderful happened. Effie got married to a good man named Amos who treated her like a queen. They had a beautiful wedding, and I sat in the front row crying happy tears. At the reception, Effie gave a speech. I want to thank my mama, Hattie Thompson, for teaching me what real love looks like. Not the kind of love that takes, but the kind of love that gives. Mama, you worked 3 jobs to raise us. You sacrificed everything. And when 3 of your children tried to take from you, you stood strong. You protected yourself. You showed me that love doesn't mean being a doormat. Thank you for being the strongest woman I know. The whole room stood and applauded. And I realized I'd lost 3 children to greed, but I'd gained so much more. Self-respect, boundaries, a community of people who saw me and valued me, and one daughter who truly loved me. That was enough. 3 years after the fire, Gideon was released from prison. He'd served his full sentence, and his probation was beginning. He called me. Mama, it's Gideon, I'm out. I was wondering if we could meet, just to talk. I don't want anything, I just want to see you. I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, okay, we can meet at a restaurant in public. We met at a diner. Gideon arrived early. He looked different, thinner, grayer, older. Prison had aged him. Mama, he said as I sat down, thank you for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. I understand. Mama, I've spent 3 years thinking about what I did, getting therapy, working through my issues, and I want you to know I'm different now. I understand now. What I did was unforgivable, but I'm trying to become someone worthy of forgiveness anyway. What are you going to do now that you're out? I got a job at an auto repair shop, working for someone else this time. Minimum wage, but it's honest work. I'm renting a tiny apartment, going to therapy twice a week. Going to AA meetings, turns out I'm an alcoholic too, just trying to build a life that doesn't involve taking from other people. And Cora. Divorced, she moved on, I don't blame her, but we're civil for the kids' sake. They don't talk to me much. I destroyed their trust too. We talked for an hour. He didn't ask me for anything. Didn't try to apologize again. Just talked about his life, his therapy, his job. As we were leaving, I said, Gideon, I appreciate that you're trying to change. I really do. But I need you to understand something. We can have a relationship, a limited one. You can call me on holidays, visit occasionally. But you'll never have access to my finances. You'll never be in my will. You'll never get that house. Those days are over. I understand, Mama. I don't want your money. I just want to be able to talk to you sometimes. To not be completely cut off from my mother. Then we can do that. But Gideon, if you ever try to manipulate me or Effie again, if you ever ask for money or try to guilt me into anything, I'll cut you off permanently. No second chances. Am I clear? Yes, Mama, crystal clear. Over the next year, we slowly rebuilt a relationship. A different one. One with strict boundaries and limited trust, but a relationship. Alma got out 6 months after Gideon. She tried the same thing, wanted to meet, wanted to talk. We did. She was different too, more humble, more aware of what she'd done. We built a similar relationship, limited, boundaried, careful. Booker got out last. He was the hardest case. He struggled with addiction after prison, went to rehab twice, but he kept trying, kept working on himself. Eventually, we had a relationship with him too, cautious, limited, but something. 5 years after the fire, I turned 77 years old. Effie threw me a birthday party at her house. She and Amos had bought a beautiful home with their own money, their own hard work. All my family came, the relatives who'd supported me, my friends from church, my advocacy work colleagues. And in the corner, sitting quietly, were Gideon, Alma, and Booker. I'd invited them, not because everything was forgiven, not because we were one big happy family again, but because they'd done the work, they'd changed, they'd respected my boundaries, and they'd earned the right to be in my life in a limited way. During the party, I stood up to give a speech. 5 years ago, my children tried to sell my house. 3 of them, anyway. They thought they had the right, thought they could force me out of my home and split the money. But they collapsed when I revealed the real owner, my daughter Effie, who'd legally owned that house for 15 years. Everyone laughed, remembering the story. What happened after that was painful. My 3 oldest children committed crimes, went to prison, lost years of their lives, and our family was broken. I looked at Gideon, Alma, and Booker. They looked back at me with humble, grateful expressions. But here's what I learned. You can't let people, even your own children, abuse you just because they're family. You have to protect yourself. You have to set boundaries. You have to be willing to stand up and say no more, even when it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. I looked at Effie. And you have to recognize the people who truly love you, who show up not when it's convenient but when it matters. Effie showed me what real love looks like. She earned that house. She earned my trust. She earned everything. I raised my glass. So here's my advice to anyone out there dealing with greedy relatives, abusive children, or people who see you as a wallet instead of a person. Protect yourself. Set boundaries. And give your blessings to the people who deserve them, not the people who demand them. Everyone cheered and raised their glasses. After the party, Effie and I sat on her porch watching the sunset. Mama, do you regret it? Everything that happened? Regret what, baby? Transferring the house to me, standing up to them, sending them to prison, all of it. I thought about it. No, I don't regret it, because if I hadn't stood up to them, they would have destroyed me. They would have taken everything, put me in a nursing home, sold my house, and I would have died alone and forgotten. Instead, I stood up. I fought. I survived. And I helped other people do the same. You did, Mama. You really did. I looked at my youngest daughter, at the home she'd built with her own hands, at the life she'd created through hard work and integrity. Effie, that house, my house that's really your house, it's not just a building, it's a symbol. It represents everything your father and I worked for, everything we believed in. Hard work, integrity, family, real family, not people who just want what you have. I'll take care of it, Mama. When you're gone, I'll keep it in good condition. Maybe my kids will live there someday. Your grandchildren, keeping the family legacy alive. That's all I ever wanted, baby. Someone to pass it on to who would value it. Not for the money, but for what it represents. We sat there as the sun set, 2 women who'd been through hell and come out stronger. A mother who'd learned to set boundaries. A daughter who'd never needed to be taught what real love looks like. And somewhere in the city, 3 other children were trying to rebuild their lives after learning the hardest lesson of all. You can't take what isn't yours. Not houses, not money, not love. Love has to be earned. One Sunday visit at a time. One phone call to say, I love you with no agenda attached. One act of kindness with no expectation of return. That's what Effie had always known, and what her siblings had learned too late. But at least they'd learned, and that, I suppose, was something. As I sat there on that porch, surrounded by love I'd earned and protected, I realized I'd won. Not by taking revenge, not by destroying my children, but by refusing to be destroyed by them. And that was the greatest victory of all. Wow, what an incredible journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think about family boundaries, we need you to take action right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful grandmother stories every single week. Turn on all notifications bell so you never miss our next amazing story. Comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? USA, UK, Canada, Jamaica, South Africa, Kenya, Trinidad, Australia. We love our global family. Did Hattie do the right thing? Should she have forgiven them sooner? Have you dealt with greedy family members? What story should we tell next? Share this video with anyone dealing with financial abuse from family members. Elderly people who need to know they can set boundaries. Parents struggling with adult children who only want money. Anyone who needs to know it's okay to protect yourself. Anyone who's ever been made to feel guilty for saying no to family. Thank you to our incredible viewers from around the world. From the USA, United Kingdom, Canada, South Africa, Kenya, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Zimbabwe, Australia, and everywhere else. We see you, we appreciate you, and we love you. Remember Hattie's lesson. Family is not about blood. It's about who shows up with love, not with their hands out. You have the right to protect yourself from anyone, even your own children. Set boundaries. Protect your assets. Give your blessings to those who earn them. Stay strong, stay blessed, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself.